Hello Aquarius friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my Aquarius December 2021 Astrology Must-Knows Horoscope Forecast. Definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com to see all of the free goodies I make for you each month. You wouldn't want to miss anything I work hard to make you. And if you'd love to earn money as an astrologer, I can teach you how to do that. You can go to my school, lumelife.com, L-U-M-E, life.com. I also have several free courses there on wellness and abundance, which you can check out. 2 admin notes to help you make the most of this video. One is that this is for you if Aquarius is your sun sign, your rising sign, your moon sign, or any other placement of Aquarius. This is part of your picture. The next must know is that if you are a late degree Aquarius, so if your birthday is towards the end of the sign, especially we'll say around February 15th through the rest of the sign, or like 20 to 29 degrees or 22 to 29 degrees, then I definitely suggest you also watch my Pisces report because you late degree people have a more complex read and you'll need both to fill in your astrological picture. Okay, so I have often suggested that you go run a free birth chart online because then you can make the most of the videos that I make for you. And now, as a member of my email community, you will actually have the capacity to run a free birth chart starting at the end of November. So if you're already on my newsletter list, fantastic. I'll send out the access information at the end of November. If you're not on my newsletter list, this is a time to finally do that, which you can do at anniehelpsyou.com. Okay, so we've got a crazy wrap up to this very, very intense year. I'm going to give you all the must-knows to help you make the most of all the energies and see some of the areas of life that are going to be aspected for you very strongly at this time and some possible manifestations that you may experience. The first major must-know that we're going to talk about is that we have a solar eclipse. The eclipse is officially on December 4th. It's at 12 degrees of Sagittarius, but the whole month is covered in eclipse energies, including a carryover from the November eclipse. So we're in eclipse season. It is a time of radical change, major goodbyes, and shiny new hellos. It's a time when stress can run high, but manifestations of things you've wanted your whole life can occur, and you're going to have to sometimes say goodbye to things that you really don't want to. Some of the jostling is going to be unwelcome, but it is important to remember that anything that's going on is part of destiny. It's not in your control. And the more you can surrender to the path that the universe is putting you on, you can trust that there are going to be aspects of it, even if you can't see them at first, that are going to lead you to your highest expression in this lifetime, which is what this eclipse energy is all about. So we've got the dramatic wrap up of the eclipse season that has been in effect since the world shut down in around March of 2020. That's around when the eclipse season started for the Sagittarius Gemini eclipses, and it has been very powerful. Now for Aquarius placements, these aspects have been very, very good for your Aquarius placement. Now, that's not to say you've only had positive experiences, because you have other placements in your chart besides your Aquarius placements, which you'll be able to see when you run the free birth chart. But specifically for your Aquarius placement, this is actually quite favorable for you, and this eclipse that's occurring has a chance to be even more positive, especially for things involving your work or your career or your place out in the world. I do often have people say, "Hey Annie," and literally these are their words, not mine, "I'm old and I don't, care about career," or they're retired and career isn't important to them, or they are independently wealthy and they don't need to make money. But this 10th house can also mean your place in the world, your place sharing your gifts, your place interacting with others using the things that you're passionate about or the things that you feel like you have to offer. They can also be things having to do with your father figures, and healing from anything that has happened there in your life. And since this is a nice angle, there's a very good chance that there are going to be positive improvements along all of those fronts, or that you might be helped by a boss or an authority figure or a parent to assist you with something that you're working on. Now, all Aquariuses have a fair chance to have positive aspects from this eclipse, but those of you who are close to 12 degrees, so that's going to be the last few days of January, and we'll say even the first week of February, or anywhere close to 12 degrees, so we'll say 7 degrees through 17 degrees, the closer to 12 degrees, the more favorable and direct this eclipse hit's going to be for you, and the more of a chance that you are likely to have notable effects from this. Now, the other things that are really accentuated at this time, as far as the big hellos and the big goodbyes and the big news, is education. So whether it's your own education or for your kids, or whether you are a teacher or want to be a teacher, or your role in that capacity, anything having to do with international business or travel, international travel or cultures or languages, anything like that, including your work with churches or spirituality, those are some places that you're likely to see the dramatic changes. And this can also tie in very directly to how you see yourself and what you want to put out into the world. There is a lot of this rebirth energy going on of you really deciding what it is that you want to do when you grow up, even if you're fully grown up, and a lot of support for stepping on that path for, shifting your identity to one that is more current for who you are now. Okay, so another major must know is that Venus is going into retrograde. So this officially happens on December 19th. It's retrograde until January 29th. We started the pre-retrograde shadow period November 18th, and the post-retrograde shadow period runs through the first couple of days of March. So it is a long transit, and it is very much going to affect everybody because Venus rules a lot of things: love and romance and relationships, money, finances, and income. Design projects, from painting your walls to designing a new home. All of those things, including your designs to yourself, anything that you do to yourself physically as far as your appearance, is all under Venus's domain. So there are a lot of things that are covered. I'm going to give you a couple of pointers and tidbits here, but I have a whole other video. Now, you notice that I refer out to other videos because there's so much information to share that I can't include all of that in the one video, or this video would be 4 years long. So if you go to Annie Botticelli, my YouTube homepage, you will see the videos that I refer you to get more information. And you really want to get more information. Actually, I think that my Venus retrograde video is the most viewed of all Venus retrograde videos because it really encapsulates what you need to know and what to avoid, because there are some pretty major things that you want to avoid, and things that if you knew them, it would make the time much easier and it could make you benefit from the time more. But basically, a couple of must notes here. The first is that we're not always seeing clearly in love, design, beauty, and money at the time that Venus is in retrograde. So that makes sense to not make major decisions that are not flexible, or that put you in a precarious financial decision, or that might, really affect you if a few months after the Venus spell is over, you're out of the Venus spell, if you look at everything and say, what was I thinking? Like painting every room in your house during Venus retrograde. That's not generally indicated, because the color that you chose is more likely to be one you look at and say, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? And the same thing with love. If you meet somebody in Venus retrograde and you've never met them before, you might have a very intense love affair and very intense romance that could be part of your karmic plan. But if you go make a decision like getting legally married when you don't know the person, or anything having to do with a big move or a big decision, when the Venus spell shifts, or you come out of it, you might look around and see things that you were not able to see because you had those rose-colored glasses on. And the same thing with investments and finances. Now, there are some rules that if you follow them, you can help to have a more smooth time and have fewer negative, or if any, negative outcomes from the transit. And I go into a lot more details about this in my book, Planetology, but I'll give you a couple of pieces here. If it's something that is easily changeable, like you just want to do a little bit of light redesign, a couple of new pillow throws, a little paint a wall, something that is easy to fix if you decide you don't like it, then that's fine. It's the big, not easily changeable things are the ones you might want to reconsider. And those things might be better to do in that beautiful window that I talked about in the November report, of the open window before we get into the Venus shadow period, which is before November 18th. I definitely recommend you listen to the November horoscope too if you haven't, because it talks about the effects of the November eclipse, and those will continue to radiate out through December. And it also talks about timing of doing things that might be Venus related that you're not really wanting to do at this time. Okay, so same thing if you want to get body art, something that you can't really change. It's not always the best thing to do it during Venus retrograde, but sometimes the desire to do it is so crazy strong that you just get overwhelmed because of this Venus spell. So just kind of remember that Venus is going to be running her seductions and tricking you a little bit. And so you want to make sure that you win over the that mischievous goddess there. Okay, so you can see more about that in my Venus retrograde video, and you can also see more about that in my Venus retrograde through the signs and houses on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Another must know about Venus retrograde is that it is going to be in the sign of Capricorn. And so that means it's going to be very focused on that aspect of business and money and sustainability, and a lot of things that are going to come into question or get called into question or be reevaluated as far as everything in your money sector. And this is also things that are in the hidden space, because for Aquarius placements, this is going to be primarily occurring in the 12th house. And the 12th house is the area of hidden things. So people could be doing things with their money that affect you that have been hidden, and that might come to light. You might have an intuition that somebody has a different account of something, or something with the finances that are shady, and that might come to light. This also could just be something very positive, like you have an idea for making money in the future and you're quietly working on it in the backdrop and not bringing it out into the open and sort of protecting it in that hidden space. And it is a good time to do things like that. This also can lend itself to clandestine romances. And so this may be a super positive thing, depending on if the karma involved is positive. You have to evaluate that for yourself. It can be also a negative thing that could come to light once the Venus spell is over and could cause, problems for you. So just kind of remember that you're under a spell and have a little voice over here saying, am I doing this because I'm under a Venus spell or what? All right, so that's a big must know. So the next thing that I want to talk about has to do with, let's see, we talked about those Sag planets. Okay, one other thing is that the same way we talked about how that Sagittarius eclipse is in a nice angle for Aquarius, it's the angle of opportunities. You're going to have a lot of opportunities that come this month through the placements in Sagittarius, making a beautiful angle with your Aquarius placements. And that's going to be, the Sun and Mercury, Mars is going to get there. And so for every Mars or every Sagittarius placement, that's more kisses to your placement that can bring an opportunity. Remember, I call this the ingredients on the counter aspect, because it sort of brings in ingredients for you to do something with. But if you don't do something with them, they're not going to turn into anything. And then it's sort of just like, yay, there's something happening. And then it's like, oh, but you didn't do anything with it, so it passes. So just look out for the opportunities and tune into your perfect timing with how you're going to make the most of the opportunities that come. You definitely might start to be more motivated and ambitious. And there are steps that you can take in line with the Venus retrograde. Just kind of keep them closer to you, rather than like the big launches or the big declarations, kind of just quietly working on things. And if it's a short-term business venture, like let's say you want to have a short-term bridge business because a business that you're working on needs a little more time to develop, and you want to go back to some way that you made money in the past, this is really great for things like that, like a short-term business thing or going back to something in a temporary way to bridge a gap. And if you need money or income or work, going back to old things might carry more promise at this time, because the energies are really tilting inwards and backwards. Remember how we talked about the tides? The tides go out when the planets are direct, and the tides come in when the planets are retrograde. So everything in love and beauty and money and design and self-esteem is sort of coming in and getting closer to you. It's not the time to try to throw a bottle out to sea in the form of your new business or your new launch, because the tides are coming in and the bottle is going to come right back to you and not get out to sea. Okay, so Another major must know is that we do have a little more time with Scorpio energy with Mars, and that does put a little pressure on your Aquarius placement. So you might find that people close to you or people with some power over you or where you have shared power with them are exerting some annoying influence. You're just going to have to deal with it for a little longer. But it's possible that they could be right about some of the things that they're trying to get you to do. So definitely try to consider the things that people are presenting to you, and know that if you need resources or need help or need support, you might find it, but it might come as a double-edged sword at this time because of the angle that's being made. So kind of like someone helps you, but maybe they're reluctant about it and they give you some, flack about it. Or it could be hard to access, but it could be available if you really try for it. All right, so another major must know is that we have the final clash of 2021 for that Saturn-Uranus square. Now again, I'm going to give you details about this right now, but if you want a very comprehensive look at the subtle and not so subtle nuances of this major outer clash that's been occurring for 2021 and will persist through most of 2022, then you'll want to watch my video on that topic. Annie Botticelli, Saturn square Uranus. Pretty sure it's on my homepage as well, or you can search for it organically. But basically, we've been watching in our own lives, individually, in our communities, in the world, this clash of tradition and innovation. The old ways versus the new ways. The old systems and the old seemingly stable systems that were in place for a long time starting to be disrupted by this Uranus energy, and a lot of erratic and unclear but sort of brilliant energies coming in as potentials, but they're sort of hard to place and hard to gel into form. So we're working with this freedom versus enslavement topic, and this is very subjective. These definitions are very subjective, but we're asking the questions. Where are we slaves? Where are we empowered in our lives? Where can we be more empowered? Where are we supposed to rebel against authority? Where is that not a good thing? Where should we have more of a quiet rebellion? Where should we have more of a noisy one? And what things about the old system do we need to keep in place to support and be a foundation as the new ways come? So this is, very, very important to know, because the tendency to want to just do something disruptive and crazy for the sake of itself is going to be very high. But again, especially because Venus is in retrograde, it might be better. You have to tune into this for yourself, but I'm just kind of planting a seed for you to consider it. Rather than completely throwing out something that you have, you might want to be building something else before you throw out what you have. So for instance, if you have income, you might want to keep that income and use it to feed your new education for your new way or your new business, rather than just leaving and then sort of not having support to try to create the new way and feeling a little bit lost and needing to have more resources. So this is a very big must know. We had this happen February 14th, June 14th. Now it's happening again December 24th. But the storyline has been in place for the whole year, and it will lighten a bit after, actually it could lighten quite a bit after this last clash in December. But it will come back again from August through November of 2022. So we're not done. Things like secondary and tertiary effects from the coronavirus. We could have, we are having, the disruptions in supply chains, different, agriculture, food issues from the global changes. And these global changes have been definite disruptors to some things that we had sort of that were stable. Changes in the education systems, the financial systems, the currencies, all of those things are probably going to get some notable impact here at this time. Now, notable impact can mean something gels in place and something, shifts into its next stage. So that can mean certain aspects are ending that were issues. And now they're not as much an issue. That could also mean more restrictions or more clashes. So for different people, they're going to have different manifestations of this at different times, but just be aware that this is definitely going to be a very intense month where those themes are going to come very much into the forefront, for better or worse. All right, let's see. So some of the great opportunities that are must-knows about this aspect, because we know we've seen some of the challenges, right? But some of the great opportunities are to create new industry. And that is, and not just create new industry, but create new ways of being. So if you've been stuck in old patterns for a long time, just with things that you do, addictions, habits, relationship patterns, you can actually just break out of those in amazing ways. It offers the chance for, like if you find you're running around in your matrix and you're trying to bump to get out and you keep getting bumped back in, you'll have more energy to pop through into a new reality. So that's very exciting. The capacity to create new industry for yourself and the world is very high. So genius insights that you have that can change things dramatically for you and others are very much going to be in full effect right now. And you being able to access your super genius self is another way that this can manifest. The foundations are going to continue to be tested in your individual experience and in the world. And you know, this evaluation of what needs to stay and what needs to go, and a timeline for that is something that will be front and center. Okay, so let's see what else. Because Saturn is in Aquarius, this has special relevance for Aquarius placements. And everyone in the zodiac has a chance to be affected in big ways and small ways and subtle ways and obvious ways by this aspect. But those of you who are near 11 degrees, okay, so again, if you don't know these degrees, when you run the free birth chart, which you'll be able to do through my email list membership, which is free at the end of November, you'll know what degree your Aquarius is at. So when I talk about these degrees, it will enrich your use of this. But it's basically going to be those people in the early part of February, the first few days of February, and are going to be the most affected by this, for better and worse. And then there's a 5-degree web. So those in the last couple of days of, the last few days of January and really into the first week of February are going to be most profoundly affected by this. The same people really that we said are going to be most positively affected by the eclipses, you all are the same people who are going to be most profoundly affected by the Saturn-Uranus clash, because those degrees are similar. The eclipse is at 12 degrees and the Saturn-Uranus connection is at 11 degrees. Okay, so if you're between 6 and 16 degrees, the closer to 11 degrees, the more intense, the more you're going to be personally affected by this. Okay, so our last big must know has to do with Jupiter moving signs. So you've been able to have a very up close and personal sight into what Jupiter in Aquarius was like, for better and worse. Jupiter can expand and amplify and make things worse, but it is the great benefic. And in general, it tends to bring benevolence, positive expansion, positive growth, that even though some of the methods may be questionable, the outcomes could be wonderful. And this can bring a lot of luck. And, you know, a 12-year cycle of Jupiter, it can bring a profound change every 12 years in the areas of life that Jupiter is moving through. And so Jupiter has been moving through for this year of 2021, how you view yourself, your physical body, your childhood upbringing, and how that's affecting you now. Anything having to do with how you identify, and this can be from a gender perspective, this can be from just a professional perspective of how people see you and how you want to be seen. This can be from your physical appearance, everything like that. Jupiter has been trying to expand in that space. You might have noticed you've gained weight over this year because Jupiter in the first house actually can add to your waistline. Some people were expanded in their physical body because they were pregnant. Some people just gained weight. So if you're trying to lose weight, now that Jupiter is going to be out of your first house, that's going to be easier for you. So it's going to leave that area for all Aquarius placements sometime between the end of December and the first part of May. And the later you are in the Aquarius spectrum, the later in that time frame it's going to leave there for you. Now, where it's going next is pretty exciting. I've talked about this before. I just talked about this last month, and we're going to talk about it again. Jupiter in Pisces means Jupiter in the second house for Aquarius placements. Now, the later you are in degree, the more you're going to feel these effects. Again, a little later in that the end of December towards beginning of May time frame, the later you are, the more you're going to feel those money effects towards the end of that spectrum. But it's going to happen sometime in this next 6 months that you're really going to have this strong focus on money, income, your sustainability as far as like asking those questions. Is what you're doing sustainable financially? How you're spending money, how you're budgeting money, how you're making money, how you're spending your time making money. It can also lend itself to a lot of big purchases. And if you have to make big purchases, definitely you want to watch my Venus retrograde resources to understand how you can use the Venus retrograde in your favor and what things to look out for. This is in my book Planetology. It's also in different forms in the video that I have on this. But if you have to make a big purchase, like, you know, any kind of bling, a house, a big car, you know, I mean, an expensive car, or anything that's expensive for you personally, subjectively, you want to learn the rules of the Venus retrograde because you can use them to benefit your financial sector and your sector of material things. And since that energy is coming up twofold for you through the Venus retrograde and through Jupiter accentuating your second house, then you really want to be aware of this because this is a time where you can revolutionize, redo your financial sector. A lot of people are going to make more money, period. But with making money also comes spending money. So you have to ask the questions. If you're making more money, how much, to what degree do you want to raise your standard of living? Because then the pressure's on to continue making that money. And what does that mean for your life? And is that sustainable? So just those kind of things to look out for. But there is a very good chance that you're going to make more money and you're going to have some things that you've been wanting on the material realm manifest for you in amazing ways. So Jupiter in Pisces also speaks to this expansion of your inner space, the increase in synchronicity and intuition, which is the language of spirit, and a deep dive into your psyche and how it affects everything that you do. It also increases the energy of art for art's sake and your creative juices. And so you might find that you're able to monetize your creativity, or that you're able to monetize going into fields that help people with their psychological and spiritual development. So if you've been interested in something like that, this can be of extra significance for you. If you're already in those fields, opportunities to earn income may come. And remember something about Jupiter, this is another major must know, is that it likes to get its fingers in a lot of pudding pies. Okay, that's how I always like to describe Jupiter. So it focuses a lot on breadth. Okay, the breadth of your focus could mean increasing the ways that you earn money. So it's additive rather than, okay, I'm not going to make money this way, now I'm going to make money this way. A lot of times it's also instead of either or. All right, Jupiter is a very also energy. And I have 9 placements in Sag and Jupiter rules Sag, so I know this very personally. Like if somebody asks me, you know, do you want this one or do you want that one? Then usually I'll say both. And sometimes I will just do both because that is the nature of Jupiter. And so your answer to your financial questions might be to do both or to do all or to do multiple things. And that could be very beneficial at this time. Okay, so I have given you a massive amount of information and must-knows to help you make the most of this month and to know what could be coming so that you can best prepare for it. If you want to have even more information, go to AnnieHelpsYou.com. Sign up for my free email newsletter. On the AnnieHelpsYou.com site, you'll see the interface for all the free things that I do for you each month, and there are so many. When you sign up for my free email newsletter, you get Shine, my 28-day virtual coaching package. Talk about inner work. This is an inner work powerhouse that I give you for free as a member of my email community. Also, new perk starting towards the end of November, as a member of my email community, you will also get access to run a free birth chart and see what placements and degrees you have so that you can use my videos that I make for you, these in-depth videos, in even greater ways. I have so many other resources, including books, my book Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe. You can find it actually on bookshelves in all the major booksellers in the United States and lots of other countries too. And if it's not there on the shelf when you walk in, you can definitely order it. It's on Amazon. It's pretty much everywhere. And it's a guidebook to help you align with the natural rhythms of the universe. If you'd like to be an astrologer as your profession, or just casually earn some money from your love of astrology, or just help yourself and your friends and family, you will love my Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. If you think I go into lots of details, crazy amount of details in my free offerings, you should see what I give you in that course. So you can check that out at lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com. I also have some free courses on wellness and abundance at that site, which you can tap into. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.